Hello and welcome to my podcast, Embodying Ascension. I am your host, Amanda Joy Loveland, and I am so thrilled to have you join me and beautiful guests as we dive into this quandary of how do we bring the metaphysical into the physical in our spiritual evolution in this human form. Each episode is going to be diving into these beautiful questions and how to bring the metaphysical into the physical. Welcome, and let's dive in. We have never podcasted together.
No.
I never had you on I had your brother on.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I had Aaron. Did you ever hear his episode?
I didn't.
It was so good.
Actually, yeah, I did listen to part of it. I do remember that. I listened to part of it, and then I got distracted, and then I forgot. So.
Oh, I'm not going to tell Aaron that you didn't listen.
Well, I did listen. But
oh my gosh.
He'll only know that if he watches this, so.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be even, because I'll just.
Oh, maybe we'll see if I keep this in or not.
You should.
I know I should. Just double checking everything. Oh my gosh. I am so excited to be sitting down with Jake Trembath, who has been someone that I always love telling the story about how we first met.
So funny.
But I'll actually tell a little bit of my backstory with me stepping more into my feminine. Dance was a huge part of it. And I first went more into ecstatic dance, which I know you love. I'm saying that sarcastically.
It's a good starting point.
It is a good starting point. And on that too, I was moving more into intimacy and was going through dynamics with my husband at the time. And we went to this sex experience retreat. And I said sex experience just to make sure that was clearly enunciated. And there was these beautiful couples there and beautiful facilitators. And, you know, it's definitely getting out of my comfort zone. Holy crap. And we have this exercise that we're supposed to partner off and not be with our partners. And it's supposed to be in quiet, you know, silent. And the facilitators have a whiteboard up front and all these things. And you blindfold, one person is blindfolded and the other person isn't. And you have to do these different sensory things. And in walks Jake late. And that's who my partner was. And here's this beautiful man, handsome, buff. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm like, okay, yes, please. So we partnered up. That was how we first met, feeding each other strawberries and doing all sorts of things.
Rubbing
not
strawberries
sexual.
on
More
Not sexual.
more sensual, or like evoking the senses. Mm-hmm. And then we became friends. Yep. I mean, it's grown over the years. That was 3 years ago.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah. So how Jake is, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're on this podcast, because as I was diving more into I was diving into my feminine, but then how do I really partner and dive into the masculine and the feminine in the embodiment? And this is where Jake really comes in, and he is not only a master, but a magician and very skilled at what he does. So I'm excited to have you on and have you share.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. How long you got into dance? How long ago?
It was about 5.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just stumbled into it? How did that?
Yeah, it's always been like a thing in the back of my mind. Like I took one dance class in college. I did line dancing just before college.
Yeah.
And then I probably danced 10 times total as an adult before that.
Really? So when did you fall in love with it?
So I just gone through divorce, and I went to the Westerner about like 3 or 4 times a week. It was like a social thing. I had a decent amount of safety. I was still kind of like a little bit accosted, but.
Okay. You have to explain what you mean by that.
Do you care about language on here?
No, not at all.
So my first or second experience at the Westerner, as I was leaving, one of the employees was like, "Hey, can I have your number? I just want to fuck you."
Oh boy.
And I was like,
at least she was honest.
Yeah.
At least she was honest and candid.
And she worked there, and I was just like, holy crap. And then like a week after that, I made friends with someone, and I found a friend group. One of them is Lex, who you've met. Uh-huh. And so I met this group of friends, and this girl, her name, anyway, she grabbed me across the room, pulled me over to this group. I was like, cool, people that are like my age and like I can play with and dance with. And then so this girl got my number, and then I got another girl's number, and she got pissed about that. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like she's trying to make claim on me or something. it was just like situations like that didn't feel super good because it was just like, I just wanted friends. And I literally told this girl 100 times, I just want friends. And eventually I found friends like Kara, Lex, these people that just maintained friendship with me through the years. So, but it was a quick dividing line of who's interested in me for relationship and who's just there to play with me.
Yeah.
And then I obviously assimilated towards the play with me people.
Define play with me.
Just, that's a good one. So play with me as in just dance and hang out and no relationship.
Friendship.
Yeah. Friendship, no toxic relationship, no physical, anything besides just dancing and playing.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about dancing or playing on the dance floor, you're just goofing around with someone. You're just, it's like kindergarten playground, but you just have a new game. It's a game that you play with someone else. And so someone that just is there to play and not to take you home, not to have like intentions outside of just what it is.
Just being totally in the present moment. Play is so huge.
Huge.
So you kind of started going to the Westerner. Then what?
And then I realized, and then I got into some pickles because I realized that I didn't have the tools to navigate life as an adult dating. So I grew up in a very structured religious thing where I learned to lie because I was told to be honest. And so I learned to be clever with my deception. So I had to go through this whole process where I had to learn to have integrity. I had to learn how to be I was already a good person. I just inherently had that. I feel like most of us do. Like I actively work on myself all the time, but I just realized I came into this world or came into this situation with no tools or skills to speak of. And so and then I failed. My marriages fell apart and she pointed at like a lot of stuff about me getting therapy and I'm like, okay. And I would do therapy and my therapist was like, you feel pretty good to me. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I don't know. And so I just like, all right, well, I'm interested. If I'm not seeing something, I'm interested in figuring it out.
Yeah.
So I began a self-love, self-grace practice where I was like learning to let go of my self-hatred, and I began to learn about relationship and attachment styles, and I learned about trust, and I learned about abuse, and I learned about all these things, and I learned that I was in a trauma bond, and there's just like so many crazy things. I was just like, what the heck? Just like brand new information. So I dove headfirst into this psychology therapy so that mostly for myself, selfishly, but with that selfishness, I was also dancing at the same time. So I would dance, and as I danced, I was like, this is interesting. Like I'm learning about attachment styles, and I'm seeing that this person's feeling anxious to me. And then I would ask them, because I'm curious, like, do you know what attachment styles are? They're like, yeah. I'm like, do you know what are you anxious? How do you know that? It's like, oh, I'm on to something weird here. And then I had a friend come to see me. Well, she came and we did lessons. Anyway, as I was dancing, I did a medicine journey where I learned to be okay with myself, basically. Like it was the beginning of my self-love. Yeah. And so I watched myself become someone that I could actually love during this process. I was just like, what the heck? Anyway, so as I did that, my expression became bigger because I muffled my expression my whole life. And after that experience, I was like, I can actually be me and be me without like completely hiding who I am. Because a lot of my life, I wouldn't wear like tank tops. I wouldn't, if someone thought I might be showboating or prideful, I just shut it down and be like, nope. And just completely close down my reality. And then I go on this journey and I learned that like, I'm someone that's deserving of love as well. And I watched myself and I'm just like, that's cool. And then I began to have more expression in my body and expression in my dance. And so that paired with my dance, and that immediate following week, I had more expression in my dance. And I think 2 guys asked for my number for me to teach them how to dance. Wow. Yeah. They're just like, can you teach me how to? And I'm like, I'm just barely starting, but sure. Like I can show you what I know. Yeah. And so anyway, I start teaching people just because I have more expression than they do apparently. And then I learn about attachment styles, and then people start coming to me for lessons because I'm like pulling these things out of people. Like, oh, I worked with a lady and her body couldn't stay straight with me. So I'd stand in front of her and she'd turn her body, and it just kept happening. And I just had this like intuitive hit. Like, do you trust me? Do you have trust things? And then I asked a lot of questions, and I'm like, have you been abused recently? Like, is that, and that was, her body couldn't, handle the energy of someone.
Yeah.
Because she just like couldn't live with her. So she just like had to always be pointed away. So then I learned about how different attachment styles look in your body. I learned about how abuse shows up in your body. Anyway, this lady comes to see me. I'm working with her, and we're doing work. And I know about anxious and avoidant at this point, and I learned about chaotic, but I've never met one.
Mm-hmm. Have you still never?
No, I've met plenty.
Okay, it's like still.
I ran a retreat like 6 months ago, and 90% of the people there were
no way.
Not even kidding.
Okay, we're gonna circle back to that here in a minute, but yeah,
it's so interesting. So anyway, chaotic or disorganized attachment is indicative by both anxious and avoidant in different times, which is interesting in dance, because if they can't stay in the middle space, they have to like pull or push, then it just shows up. So anyway, I was dancing with this girl, and it's indicative of usually being abused by your primary caretaker growing up, because you don't know whether to like be close or far away, because you're either going to get the shit kicked out of you or just completely dismissed. And so instead of asking if she's disorganized attachment, I'm like, this is going to sound weird, but were you abused by your dad growing up? And she just like stops and just starts kind of like melting a little bit. Like, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, okay, this is getting weird. So anyway, I learned from person after person after person, tons and tons of data. I just asked tons of questions because I was just teaching them how to dance. And then in the interim, I was like, but this is interesting to me. What is this? What is this? What is this? And I started taking notes. And then at the end of a year or two, I'm just like, this is insane how much of people's like life's experience is showing up in their body in the moment. Yeah. And then of course, whenever I say that out loud, everyone's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But in the moment, it was like so interesting to me that I just like kept diving and like became obsessed. I was reading books like one a week, one a month on average for the last 4 years. And so anyway, so that was kind of the next stage of the process, was people started asking me to dance or to teach them how to dance because I had more expression and I kind of looked like I knew what I was doing. And
I kind of did.
I kind of did enough that people were like, that's better than me, teach me. And then as I was teaching, I started realizing that people get this stuck mentality with something they think they already know. And so country swing is what I was teaching. But when they would watch me, they're like, but that's not what you're doing out there. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, all right, I can attempt to teach you what I'm doing. And I was taking other dance classes. I was taking West Coast, which is a different dance style. I was taking some salsa, bachata, and it was showing up in this linear, like slotted fusion style of dance, which became known as Bar Coast. And so I was doing Bar Coast and helping create Bar Coast, which was a new dance style. And then I realized I own learnbarcoast.com and a bunch of these other websites for people to learn that. But it's like not something that, like, I was okay being behind that. But then I decided that we needed to rebrand for the therapy side because that's what I was more interested in. Yeah. So anyway, tons of lessons, tons of like learning. And then people started wanting the structure of dance. So I started creating it for people. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm doing, I think. And then after a while, it became, these are the rules of this game that I'm playing. And more people started watching. And now we go out in our groups, like we have 20 or 30 people that go out to the Westerner. And a whole section of the Westerner is dancing all beautifully and very similarly. But like everyone's super unique, you know? Yeah. And everyone's like, what is going on here? Like, how's this whole little pocket just beautiful, connected, playful? Yeah. And like, you can just tell the light in the people's eyes, like genuine happiness. And anyway, with time, we've learned that when you dance, you have 3 chemicals running through your system. Well, 4, but serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine are all going through at the same time. And so you're suddenly in this body high. Yeah. You're in a safe environment because the way that I built the container, as I started teaching dance classes, I opened up and dedicated this space for the safety and growth. And as soon as I did that, it was actually a conversation I think you and I had.
I don't remember. You're going to refresh my mind.
Yeah, I'll just act like I'll give you all the credit for it.
I don't need credit.
I just remember we had a conversation. I think it was at one of our retreats, and I was like, I need to do that to my space. And so
the safety of the
I can't remember exactly, but it gave me this idea to just basically cleanse the space and dedicate it as a protected space.
I'm really big into, anytime I do any kind of creation, I do put container in almost a boundary way of like, hey, in my practice, for example, the only people that are ready to fully take accountability and shift will come into my space. So if anybody does, I know they're ready. I don't even have to wonder.
Right.
And I know I'm protected.
Right.
So I think, it's probably
same process I went through, but then I was like, we had a conversation. I had a conversation with Shane, and then it compiled into like dedication of space.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then ever since then, it's been about 2.5 years since I've done that. My classes have been more full and almost perfectly balanced, which is crazy to me. Because normally you're thinking like, oh, there's probably like 20 guys and 10 girls, or 20 girls and 10 guys. It's been within like 2 or 3 people for 2.5 years straight. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're good at that.
So, and whereas before that, I had classes where 16 people would show up and there'd only be 1 girl. I'm just like, oh gosh. And anyway, so I dedicated the space for the safety of everyone that came in, so that we could all learn and play and just create a cool container for community. And then just like from that and all these other experiences, all the learning, I've learned the power of community to rewire. Like, anyway, it's been the wildest journey, but it all started with me going through authentically going through my own healing journey, where I was learning how to communicate better between the masculine and feminine. And I realized that people that are very controlling, that it would start showing up in the dance, and I'd watch them like move their partner around in this controlling energy. And I'm like, hey, is this how you're showing up in life? And people are like, people that are open are like, what the hell? I think I am. And the people that aren't are like, no. I already know what I'm doing. Shut up. Leave me alone.
You're like, okay. Yeah, you just proved my point.
Yeah. Yep. So it's just been this wild journey, but it all started with, it's just something for me to do. It was a pastime where I could play with people, and then it transformed day by day, by month. And now I have this amazing team, because once you kind of like tune into the frequency that you want to be in, the people that are meant to be in your little space just kind of gravitate in.
Absolutely.
Like how you've shown up in my life, and it just keeps happening where more and more cool people keep coming in. So, but now we have a little team, and now we're doing online content. We have an app coming out pretty soon. We have a whole bunch of cool, amazing stuff on our adventure going ahead.
Wow. And this is just I have never heard like how you got into all this. So that was fun for me to hear. Yeah. But this touches on so many pieces, especially where this podcast is about embodying ascension, right? And this piece of just that safety piece alone. Most people do not feel safe in their bodies. And I know that was something that I had no idea. I was so disconnected, and there's still elements to where I'm still working through some things. Yeah. But first, like for me too, it was kind of a play thing. It definitely got me out of my comfort zone to go do ecstatic. Yeah. And I'm like, how did I even get introduced to that? It was a guy that I was dating had kind of introduced me to it, and I started going, and it's like, wow, starting to get more comfortable in just my own skin and my own body created more safety here. And then I started noticing more of a reflection in other people. Yeah. But I remember coming over, and I can't remember when did we dance at Sex Experience? Yes, we did. Yeah. Yeah, we did. Barely. And yeah, very little. And I'm like, oh, I really want to learn this, because the whole dynamic of the masculine and the feminine, how you teach that is so beautiful and so desired, I think, for anybody that is wanting a partnership, which I don't know who doesn't, because everybody wants love. Yeah. And that was so eye-opening to me back then. And it was so intimidating, because I'm like, the whole idea of partner dance, like I'm now, you know me, I'm like, I can solo dance all day long. And then the partner dance, I'm like, oh shit, I've got lots more to learn here. Yeah. But I am doing better. Thanks to you.
Kicking ass, yeah.
Not quite kicking ass. But I do remember, as you're talking, I'm like, I remember the first time dancing with you. And this piece about intimacy versus like the sexual energy versus intimacy, especially when you're in dance. I think that's one of the things that I've so loved watching your group, is there's this intimacy and this connection without it being sexual. Yeah. And at first, because you naturally just think, because our society is so conditioned, like what you said, this person, wanted your number because they just wanted to fuck you. We're so conditioned to, okay, this energy must mean they want to have sex with me, or I want to have sex with them, instead of, no, this is just about connection. Yeah. And we can go play in this space and have this beautiful experience. And then at the end of the day, I feel more alive and you feel more alive. And then we separate and go, part ways. Yeah. And I remember at first, because you're so good at that, I'm like, oh shit, like, whoa, you're in my bubble. Hello. I'm like, okay, this is fine. And now now I have no problem with that, but I had to cultivate the intimacy with me first. And that has been something that dance, I mean, there's nothing like dance that really reflects back to you the pieces with the body, the emotions, the masculine, the feminine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a magical space to see. It's the best mirror. Well, if we think about it, you want to learn all these things. You want to be in partnership. You want that experience. But because it's either sex or no sex, it suddenly puts all this pressure on the sexual relationship. So then you enter this container for a relationship and you're dating and testing each other out and seeing if you can handle it. And then suddenly a blow up happens and we just cut the ties and we start over. Yeah. And what we've done is we've created a safe place to rewire the functionality of conversation between masculine and feminine. So instead of having to have an end destination of sex, it is now we can play here and learn to rewire in healthy communication patterns so that if you change it on the micro, it changes on the macro. So you change it in the micro of the 3-minute dance relationship, and suddenly your macro relationships start reflecting back healthy patterns. And you're like, what? I didn't learn that. I learned it in 3 minutes and playing.
And that rewires the neural pathways. What's the numbers on that? I can't remember. 24 times faster, 20 something times faster.
20 to 40 times faster.
Yeah. When it's done in play. And dance is so freaking fun.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm always exhausted and I'm always so happy. I just have the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah. Everyone in the community, it's like, so we've had so many people come through from like different states. We've had people move to the state for like the opportunity to dance with us and connect with us. And then we have people, they just get crushes on nothing in particular. Like some people think that they have crushes on me and I redirect them to dance. They have crushes on
I've heard
dance.
about those crushes.
It gets wild out there.
Poor Jake. He's like, I'm just dancing.
I'm just here to play. Yeah. But when they're redirected to the dance in the community, then it has this really healthy, flourishing effect and it just blossoms everyone. It's so cool. Cause like, yeah, we can have a cool relationship, but if you've read, I don't remember if you've read Tribal Leadership or not.
No, we talked about it when we did the retreat.
Okay. It's one that we got to put on the list for chat about.
I'm very selective on what I read lately just because I'm writing and I'm channeling, but now it seems to be, anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
This one the book is all about community and healthy. So you just have different levels or stages of community development. And what we've done is we've created a stage 4, stage 5 community, and which is just different. There's most of the world operates in 1, 2, or 3. 3 is like, I'm great, where you have someone that's like I'm it or whatever. And then we're it and we fight against, it's just
the
like
ego and the God complex a little.
Yeah. Which is great. You need that stage in your life's development. You have to learn about your greatness, just like we were talking about. But there's a stage after that where you learn that we are great. And there's a stage after that where it's life is great. And that's the stage that we like to play in. And so anyway, but I've learned that more than anything is you redirect people into the community space and have frequent interaction that's healthy, like dancing, just playing around. It fosters just this amazing environment for everybody. Yeah. And there's so much healing that I don't even touch. I just created the space and everyone does it on their own with that intention. Yeah.
You've had some significant people that have come through the group and have had, and I know it's not their story is not yours to share, but it's tempting with some of the stories, especially thinking of cute Katie and her. That's just amazing. Yeah. And even my experience with her, she taught me some things that I didn't realize that, in the space that we had around love. Yeah. That was fascinating for me to learn. I know I'm being I told you about that experience, right? Yeah. Being a little bit vague, but what do you find, especially with this whole embodiment piece, what do you find has been the most fascinating for you?
Well, the first most fascinating thing was that, I know it now as knowledge, but it's like back then it was like how your body shows up is how your body shows up. So if it shows up anxious here, it's going to show up anxious in a relationship. If it happens in a 3-minute relationship, it'll happen in a 30-minute or 3-hour or 3-week or 3-year or 3-decade relationship. And so the micro is the macro. How you do one thing is how you do all things. That was probably the most interesting, big, aha. When the intention is set for a community and the space is created, it just fills. That was wild. Cause I was having I was averaging maybe like 10 people in my classes. And then I set that container and all of a sudden I started having 30, 40, 50 people in my classes.
You draw a beautiful crowd, like a big crowd. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So that was a really cool aha. And then with the actual embodiment, I'm watching these seeds get planted and then they grow with or without me, which I love. Cause I'm like, I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I'm not like, hey, this is only mine. I'm like, hey, this is for everyone. And then some people will join and then they'll just stop dancing or just not showing up to stuff for like months.
Yeah. But
because they had those seeds of like new thought development, or they saw it on the micro and they started making these little micro changes. Like some people, I only get them for 2 lessons. And the whole focus is rewiring the inner critic or changing the self-deprecation dialogue to be just a little bit more self-love, like a 1% change, 10% change. And I'll watch in 6 months how different they show up in dance. They have more connection, more availability for connection. So that's probably the most interesting thing to me is that's the most recent one. So I learned that at my birthday party last month because I hadn't seen these people in like a year or 6 months and they were dancing better than they ever have. I'm like, what have you been doing? Practicing self-love. I'm like, whoa. And it just magically, like you don't have to learn dance. It's just, you have to learn how to really love yourself and then you can show up with full expression.
Yeah.
Which was so cool.
Your birthday party was so fun.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah, I love all of those. As you're speaking, one of the things that I have been witnessing, both when we dance, but then I'm witnessing it since I mentioned Katie, and then it's interesting what happens, I think, for both people, masculine and feminine, but especially I'm going to speak just to me. When there's safety that is held in whatever frame from the masculine, the things that start percolating and that start coming up. Because in our last dance session, I was doing so much better. But if you remember, I was kind of like a little bit pushing away. And when you're talking about the anxiety, and I'm in a relationship now to where it's safer than I've ever felt. And I'm noticing all sorts of shit come up within me because I've never had something so like just like this to where all of a sudden you can see all these like frenetic things or like the fear dynamics and whatnot. And I feel like that is something that when I dance with you, it feels so safe that there's all these little parts of me that I'm like, normally I'm totally fine. What is this? Like it's all coming up. And it's so interesting to be able to have spaces like that because we can go do all the personal work. We can sit in our aloneness and like, I can have self-love and I can read all these books, but actually having practices like dance that allow us to mirror is so fascinating and so powerful and so beautiful. That it's so fascinating to me. I still need to come do some dance lessons.
We all do.
Go perfect that part of me.
Yeah, I hold the belief that when we learn to hold ourselves, it allows more stuff to come up because our soul knows that we're safe. We're safer. It's not like, oh, we're going to go like in reality. It's like, you're going to experience more pain than you ever have once you feel completely safe in yourself. It's just going to stretch you out, but it's also going to allow you to experience more joy. That's my belief. And
I would agree with that.
And then same thing in containers, on the micro, if you have a kid that, like my kid at some point, 3 years old, I think he was wandering around, maybe 2 years old. He was just wandering and he felt so safe to wander around this whole party and he just explored around this property. And my cousin was a psychology major and he's just like, that's really healthy, right? I'm like, is it? Is it healthy that my kid's wandering everywhere? He's like, yes. It means that he feels so safe and secure with you that he knows that no matter what, you're going to be there, which means he can explore.
I love that.
And then he's like, on the contrary, if you have someone who isn't safe, they're going to cling to your leg because everything is a terror to them. And you think about our energy clinging to itself, just like terrified.
Right.
And then you think about the final release and experiencing the scary things as you like step outside of your comfort zone. But the more safe that we are secure in ourselves and in our relationship, the more I hold the belief that we allow ourselves to experience a little more, to stretch our being, to stretch who we are and what we are. And it allows us to just discover who we are, because if we're stuck tight, we're never going to blossom. And so it just allows us to relax to a point where we can really fully be seen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In my personal experience, I think there are some practices that are a lot more long-winded and painful to go through versus, like we're talking about with dance of like, oh, we're going to go play. And, it's like when you pointed out that piece with me, it was like, there is that internal, like, oh, that just like it pings, like is that internal pain point of like, oh, shoot, like, okay, I am doing that. Even now, as I'm recalling it, there's emotions there. And it is from past trauma and past things that we've experienced. And it's so interesting and so fascinating to be able to have experiences like that do allow for more grace and love in the experience, instead of, okay, I gotta go, whatever the process is. That some can be really, I'm not a huge fan of the whole screaming and that kind of like, let's go beat a pillow. I think I would rather go dance and go have those experiences. Now, to each their own, but it is such a beautiful process, I feel like, in our ability, though, just where we're like, when you're talking about when we get to go expand more, it's like, or when there's more safety, okay, now we can go even deeper. Like, holy shit, I thought I had already done all this healing, and the layers that just continue to come through.
Yeah, I had this conversation with, you remember Courtney?
Uh-huh.
Oh, Courtney.
Of course, I remember Courtney. She's freaking adorable.
She's great. So this conversation just a couple days ago, her perception of the healing world is very painful, and you lose it's just like so hard and challenging. And I get that, because I've seen it. I've seen the entire world of that, those practices where it's like, oh, you have to, it's going to hurt so bad.
Well, we're so conditioned that things have to be painful.
Yeah. But I really, really, like, my firmest belief is that there's like a stage where we just get to play more. And it's like, that is just, well, according to the science, is actually more healing than anything else.
Right.
And so, but it's like, you do have to do a fundamental base amount of work to get there. You can't just go straight to play and all of a sudden you're healed. But if you do your fundamental, which most of us have done at this stage, if anyone's watching this, I guarantee they've done most of that work. But then there's just like this, you've built the foundation, and then play can happen at a much more, because you're safe. No, have you seen this one where they're doing a study, and they give this kid, he's just on a table, and they give him some toys, and he just immediately just starts to play with them. And then someone comes in and just like yells, just like, it's an argument between two parents, but they're just like, what is going on? Just like super loud and aggressive. And the kid's just like, oh my gosh. And he just like sets down the toys and just watches, and everything calms down and everyone's fine. And he just stays in that position for a while. And then they change out the toys and give him new ones. And he's just like, even though it's been like minutes at this point, he just like, and then finally he eventually kind of like hesitantly plays with these toys. That's how we are. And I feel like those scary things, if we can get to the point where we're good, where we have ourselves, we don't scare ourselves all the time. Like, you're doing it, you're effing everything up. If we can stop doing that, the play can happen, and the blossoming just like, it just happens naturally. It's the natural next byproduct.
Well, and to your point, it's like that foundational, I would agree that foundational work is so important. And I do wonder, though, because there are so many of us that have done a lot of the really difficult pieces, that I think that it's made the path easier for those that are going through it. I don't think it has to be as much suffering. And I could be wrong, but I liken this a lot to religion. Like, I love that I had my Mormon base, because it did create a foundation, and like my experience was, oh great, now I've graduated, and now what else is next? And it does allow for, when we're going through these pieces, that it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing this part. Oh, that hurts a little bit. That pings. Okay, I'm just going to breathe into, like, right now I'm in a lot of discomfort because I'm in the spaces I call the space in between, where it feels janky. And he's just like, okay, I get to embrace it. But I know this place. Even though it's a different aspect of it, but it does get to be like, I'll have conversations all the time of like, I'm really in my humanness right now, and it's pissing me off. And I get to be more silly and playful with it, instead of like, oh my gosh, the world is falling apart, and I don't know where my base is. Because how many times have we gone through that? I know I've gone through that a gajillion times. You're kind of going through it a little bit right now. But like, what's next? Which so am I in some ways, which I think is a really exciting place to be.
And I love those moments of clarity. And oddly enough, it happens usually when I'm dancing. So like dancing, so we've talked about kind of where it came from. Where it's at now for me, it's my place of meditation. So I'll dance with a partner, and I'll suddenly have, maybe hippies call it downloads. But like,
I'm a hippie. Are you a hippie?
I am. I mean, I'm all things, I think. So I think I'm a hippie and not a hippie, but it's like all of a sudden I get this like flash of information. of some problem that I've been dealing with for weeks or months, but I'll just have just the right like experience, song, dance, partnership, whatever. And it just sinks in just right. Like it's so beautiful. And then it's like, that's my next step. And then it's like, I just hold on to that information. I'll keep notes of that or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that feels like the next stage of my journey. So what's cool is I have now, instead of just one person that I experience that with, I have dozens and dozens of people that I can be in flow with and just have this amazing partnership dance. And then we're both just getting these like download theta state brainwave processing things. It's so cool. And now it's just like an easily accessible flow thing. So it's like when you put in the time to learn an instrument, you can get into flow in that thing. Like if you're playing piano or guitar, you can get into flow, and I'm sure that it helps people in certain ways. But in partnership, it's different because it's a relationship with another person.
Right.
And as they mirror things, it brings up like you were talking about, it brings up that little insecurity. And it's like, oh, this is how I can reframe that. That's how I can work through it. And so I feel like those painful places that we're talking about, those in-betweens, they used to be longer periods of time, and I almost feel like they're shortening now.
I would agree.
And I feel like I'm learning at a just much more rapid rate. So where I'm at now is now I have a community, an amazing community of really cool, I consider them conscious, healthy people with really healthy relationships. Everyone tells me about how dramatic the dance world is, and that's true for the dance world that I've seen, but the dance world I've created and that we're part of is very low drama, very lot of love. And so we've just created this unique little bubble, and I feel like it has so many answers. It's a micro community of healthy expression that helps us all rewire our larger relationships in life, or our macro things like in our jobs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is I'm watching problem solving happen at a much more rapid rate because of the opportunity that we've created with each other. So.
Well, I feel like too, a lot of this has to do when we're talking about the masculine and the feminine. And if you look at God as an archetypal type with its sex is usually more masculine, and the feminine, the creatrix energy, which is also God, gets to be in her little chaotic energy, but she knows here's the boundaries, here's the banks to my river. Yeah. And in dance, for me in the feminine, like having the masculine, trusting the masculine has me, even if I mess up, because I mess up, and then it's like you just kind of breathe through it and play with it. And it's like I always do my little screams and whatever, like, I just screwed up there or whatnot. But I feel like that's so indicative with life and with trusting the flow of like, I know if I'm stuck, I know that if I sit here and I just allow and I actually let go and I go play or I go do something like that, it will come, because it does. And so it's like developing more and more of that trust with source, the divine, in our flow of how we get to move through life. And so I feel like it's such a beautiful mirror in that space. Would you agree?
I would agree all the way. Yeah. And as you talk about the masculine, feminine, I feel like what dance allows is I feel like after all of this, all I'm doing is helping people with their communication with masculine, feminine. And so once all the little buttons are turned internally, so I don't self-abuse, and so I have self-love and I understand my greatness, and then you do the same thing, suddenly we get to start a new thing. And just like I was talking about at the beginning, when I was teaching country swing, everyone was like, I already know how to do this. And it's just like, okay. Whenever you reframe it and you're learning something brand new, like this dance style, it allows you to, it's like starting something brand new, fresh. Everything is new. And instead of being like, I already know, all the paths already built for your old crappy communication, it's like, you get to start new. And it's like, oh, I'm going to practice a little self-love here. My negative self-talk is showing up in my container, and she thinks she's taking it as I'm disappointed in her, when really I'm just mad at myself. And now you're realizing how the relationship starts to bleed and how your communication is ineffective. So then you reframe that, and suddenly you're self-sustained. You're not constantly bleeding onto them, your inadequacies. And then eventually you start to communicate and you start to play and you goof around a little bit and you're saying something and they say something back. And you're just saying yes and to each other, and you're encouraging and loving, and you're literally rewiring those neural pathways that have been, however old you are, years of most likely unhealthy expression to the point of healthy expression. And then you can watch as if your childhood self was stuck in that relationship pattern. You can watch yourself grow up into healthy expression as an adult. Like it's exactly what rewiring the neural pathways is. And then you have healthy expression where you can learn at a much more effective rate, because it used to be, and it still is sometimes, but it used to be when I'd communicate like 5 years ago where I just read everything wrong because I'm just looking from my own lens.
Right.
And I was a violent communicator and I assumed so many things and I just didn't see because I knew that they were telling the same story that I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking for all the evidence and now it's at a point where it's like, all right, I can settle myself down to the point where I can actually be open and interested in their expression and where they're coming from. And it helps me heal the internal vision of masculine and feminine in my own system. And then it starts to show up outside. So now I am inviting, because I'm doing my internal work in this space, inviting feminine to show up in a more healthy space. So instead of that old energy of like, I don't trust women, I can be in the space of like, I'm completely trusting. I trust our container. I trust where we're going. I trust our play space. And then that allows me to heal in ways that nothing else could have healed me from. Like it's the mirror. It's the playful mirror that teaches me more than I've ever learned, which is why I feel like I'm on some weird speedy track right now, learning so many things.
Well, you're so passionate about it, which I think
it helps.
Yeah, makes a massive difference. And this, like really when we break down everything, especially part of our existence and this piece of what I feel like everybody wants to create, you know, how do I be a better version of me? How do I, especially again, talking about this idea of ascension and embodiment and this core piece of the masculine and feminine is it's a core wound that all of us in our unique ways and the cogs of the cosmos and all the things are doing a piece in that somehow. And I feel like my whole life I've been more in my masculine because that has been safer and the masculine hasn't been safe. In fact, I was just talking to someone the other day. I don't know that I've ever felt fully safe with the masculine my entire life, which is an interesting statement. And it's like when I asked someone, you know, do they feel like they've ever been fully safe with the feminine? You know, it's an interesting thing to actually reflect on. And granted, I have masculine and feminine within me. So do I feel safe with my masculine? Do I feel safe with my feminine? And this piece is so fundamental to us just in our evolution. And so again, to have this embodiment of dance and that practice is so key to all of this. So it's like, I love that you're doing what you're doing. And I like that I get to be a part of it and come play here and there. And then who knows in the future, right? Of what gets to be created and the grand visions that you have that will come to pass one of these days in the community aspect.
Yep.
Which that's a whole other podcast about the community piece. There's a lot of people that don't believe that we can actually create it. Yeah. But I know you have a lot of opinions on that and beliefs.
Yeah. I feel like what I bring is just a piece of the puzzle, but it's as far as communities go, I'm just going to boast about mine because it's amazing.
Do it. Boast.
But I just feel like it's whatever we figured out is integral for whatever community happens in the future. Yeah. Whether it's like rural development, small community development, whatever happens in the future, this piece that we figured out, this often meeting, the central location type of thing, the interaction, the one-on-one interaction, the healing of the masculine and feminine inside all of us, I feel like it's the most crucial piece that I agree that I have seen for community development. And it is showing itself. Anyway, it's just showing a lot of viability, which I wasn't expecting.
Well, especially in the community that we're in, there's a lot of people that are stepping out of religion, which is such a community that they completely lose their community. Right. And that sense of being so isolated and so alone is so damaging for the psyche and mental, emotionally, that, you know, community is what our society, and there's so many things of what our world is needing, and we're moving into that. But it's like what I love too. And as I was listening to you talk, and I'm seeing and remembering, you know, the community times when I'm there and we have these different experiences. I always am shown, like, when communities like that gather and they do things like that, like what it sends down to the grid lines and the ley lines and the planet, it's so, I don't think we even fully understand what happens and how that ripples out. Yeah. It's like, no matter how small or how big these things are, they're so impactful on a global scale.
Yeah. I agree. And it's like so many times I think, so one of the biggest ahas I've had is this idea that if you heal the relationship within, it heals without, or it heals outside of you. So people work on the relationship with their dad, who it's been years and years and 30 years of pain. And all of a sudden they just like learn and forgive and realize that that's just mirroring something inside them. Suddenly their dad shows up that week and is like, hey, I just wanted to apologize. And it's like, what? How does that happen? But like,
I've seen it time and time again too. It's wild.
It's so fun.
It's so cool.
And I love just being like the person that's like, hey, maybe look at that. And then they do it and it changes everything. Mm-hmm. But then I feel like the next time around, when I tell someone that concept, they're like, oh yeah, I just started practicing that like 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but it, just like you're talking about, like what we're doing has it's creating ripples in such a cool direction for people that I'm not even in contact with.
Right.
And there's the actual physical component. Like I've heard feedback from people. I've had someone came to my retreat who heard about me in Las Vegas. That was just, someone was dancing out there and they're like, hey, where'd you learn how to dance? And they mentioned my name. And so they looked me up and they found the retreat and they just showed up because they watched one person dance in Las Vegas.
Wow.
So there's the actual physical, what changes, but then what you're talking about, it just changes. It's fundamentally changing the planet to create more beautiful connections like this and more opportunities, and just to do it on a frequent scale, like every Wednesday type of thing, or every Saturday or whatever your class schedule is. I feel like it's sending that consistent, steady pulse into the earth of just like we're healing in so many cool ways.
Yeah, I freaking love it. Oh my gosh, all the good things. And it's like when you were talking about the communication, the nonviolent communication, that book is so good. Yeah. I remember when you read it. Anyway, I ended up reading it, I think around the same time you did. It was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good book.
And I'm rereading it again. I've got a book club, 2 book clubs right now.
Oh, you do?
And one of them is rereading nonviolent communication. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to reread it myself. You know, as we're talking, there was a reel that I was just sent by, what's his name? Gabor Mate. Am I saying that right? Yeah. And he was on a podcast and she was talking about some sexual abuse, because sexual abuse is so prevalent I don't know anybody that hasn't had some sort of sexual abuse. And they get so identified with the abuse that happened and the person who was the predator. Mm-hmm. And in this, I'll have to actually share it in the show notes, but in it, he actually says it's not the abuse. It's the fact that you didn't feel safe enough to talk to someone about it that created the trauma. Yeah. And it was like, holy shit. Talk about safety pieces. And again, this just comes back to no matter to what you're talking about with your son or with these dynamics, like if we can feel safe enough here, it doesn't matter what we're going through. We know we'll be okay. Mm-hmm. And again, that's where dance is like so amazing, because it does help to create and cultivate that safety within the physical self that just mirrors everything. That I think is beautiful.
Yeah. And it's a barometer. So you get to show up every week and see how you're doing.
It's like, oh. I'm like, shit, I'm doing really good today. Or, oh, crap. It's like, oh.
And you could just be having a bad day, but there's a consistent, steady trend.
Yeah.
And anyway, there's a stage that people hit. And because I feel like we've cracked the code on just like easy dance experience. Dance is not step, 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 step. Instead, we've narrowed it down to the most important pieces and eliminated all the dumb stuff that is unimportant for connection. Because we've done that, most people within a month of dancing, they hit a flow with partnership. And that is the most mind-blowing experience. It's just insane. But some people hit it within like 2 weeks. Some people hit it first day. It's crazy. But some people hit it within 2 weeks or a month. And when that happens, I feel like there's like this like brand new light in people's life and this new. And like you're going to stumble and you're going to step back and you're going to lose it for a second. And then you're going to be like, oh no, if I lost it forever, was it just an accident? But eventually you'll find it again. But once you have that safety and you can literally check in on how things are going. So weird, but you can make decisions in unhealthy directions. And I can feel that in people. Like I kid you not, this is dead serious. One of my dance students who I hadn't seen in months came and I was dancing with her and I'm like, she already knows I'm weird. So I'm just like, this is going to sound so weird, but are you in a physically engaging relationship right now? And she's like, what do you mean? Like, am I having sex with someone? Like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, it just started like 3 weeks ago. I was like, I can feel it in your body. That is so funny. I can feel the surrender that she had, because she normally has so much tension and like so much rigidity. And she was just in this like surrendered place. I could feel it exuding in her body. So you can, with people that are conscious and healthy, I feel like you can kind of have the communication and be barometers for each other. Not like, hey, you're doing this wrong or this is bad, or I can definitely tell this. Just be like, oh, I'm noticing that you're softer. What have you been doing that's helping you get softer? And then they probably won't tell you that they're getting laid, but
like, well, having really amazing sex,
right? Which does heal. So it's like,
oh, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I freaking love it. What would you? Okay. where can people find you? Because right now you're in a little bit of a transition space, so I can update it too. But for right now, if somebody's wanting to even just start, or they're already doing Yeah,
so we're selling our property. We've just had too many run-ins with the city. I just don't want to be there anymore. So we're looking for a new city, new location. Nothing's nailed down that. You can find us online at soulcoast.dance, and that will be forever. We'll be running we have a retreat this month. So in 2 weekends,
what date?
April 18th.
Okay.
Weekend. It's Easter weekend, but
yeah,
it's going to be
Where are you
awesome.
doing it at?
Park City.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so it'll be close.
Yeah.
So we have retreats. We'll have a retreat in June in Costa Rica. So that's a good way to come find us. We still will be holding our weekly classes. Right now we're just trying out a few different studios.
Yeah.
We're trying to buy a studio. There's a whole bunch of stuff we're working on doing. But as of right now, we still have our weekly Wednesday night classes. You can still sign up for private lessons anytime. I have intensive packages. So I've had people fly in to see me from Alaska, California, Missouri, like wherever, all over the United States. So you can come in and see me. We have intensive packages. Like if you're like dead set on shifting your reality, it's a little bit more pricey, but we can literally, like, depending on how much information you can take in, because it is a fire hose. But if you're like used to fire hose stuff,
and you're ready,
change that tomorrow. So we have intensive packages. They're a little more pricey, but you can do lesson before lunch, and after lunch.
That's awesome.
And you just like dive in, and it's definitely intense, but we have openings for that kind of thing. Very immersive.
Let's shift to the immersive.
Just get it done in 3 days. Yeah. And we have retreats like that too. So we have immersive, like the Costa Rica one. So
that's awesome.
But Soul Coast Dance has all of this stuff. Our app will be out probably in a week and a half.
What's the app's name? Do you know?
It'll be Soul Coast. Yeah.
Soul Coast.
Yeah, Soul
Super.
Coast.
What are they gonna? What can they find in the app?
I'll have to send you a link, but it'll be on the Apple Store. Okay. Yeah. We just barely sent it in for approval last week, and it got banned. Not banned, but just a little. It was like there's too many quirks that keep
fine tuning.
It's just fine tuning these little details, because it's like one of the pages, the scroll bar ended up in the middle. Stuff like that. And the App Store's like, we're not producing this.
My God.
We're just polishing up a few things.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll make sure and put all that in the show notes for sure. Yeah. And I want to have you back because I want to actually dive in a little deeper. I'm trying to keep these episodes to like an hour so that, I'm not a Joe Rogan that can do a 3-hour podcast and people are like, yes. Yeah. Not yet, at least. But, talking about the community piece and some of those parts, I think would be, especially because I know where you're wanting to go. And I'm definitely there's several of us that are wanting to create community aspects and literally changing the frequency and the vibration of the planet and reweaving the grid lines and all the fun things, which I freaking love. I'm trying to think if I have any other really good questions for you right this second. Is there anything else you want to share?
I'd probably just like how easy the journey is. Like it seems like it's challenging. The way I see the world is we all have just these different opportunities to go through whatever you want. And so if you want to learn about breath work, you can become immersive. You can get immersive into it, and you can become a master practitioner in a short period of time. And then you can do it every week. It's an accessible thing that you can do. When people think dance, they see and feel the challenge and the awkwardness and all this like
intimidation. I mean, it's intimidating.
So many things.
Oh yeah.
And you're in front of people and you're being looked at. There's so many things. And some people aren't quite ready, which is totally fine. I've had people come to my class and literally a year later come back through the doors like, I'm ready now. That first time I wasn't ready. I cried the whole time.
Are you serious?
And there's
guy or girl?
Girl. We had a dance and I talked about safety and she just cried and left. And I was like, okay, see you later. And a year later she came back. She's like, Jake, I'm ready for this shit now. And I'm like, hell yeah, girl.
That's so great.
And she's been ready. She shows up at retreats. She's kicking ass.
Oh, that's so fun.
But it's a lot easier than you think. Yeah. But just like what we were talking about at the beginning, the container is set. So you just have to be ready. You show up ready, just interested. You can even just be curious. And it's so much easier. The two things I get the most often is way easier than I thought. Yeah. And this is more therapeutic than anything that I've ever done. I have so many people that have had years and years and years of therapy, 6 years, 10 years. And they're like, 3 sessions with you is more than 10 years of therapy. And I'm just like, I can repeat the information. I'm not going to sell myself like that, but
well, there is an element. Today's an energy of claiming that there is an element, especially with the level of mastery that you have of self-mastery and self-teaching, and then having these experiences with client over client over client, like you do get to own that, Jake.
Yeah.
Like you are unique in what you're creating. This is your genius. It's like you do get to claim that, and you're amazing at it and very, very gifted.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I've had more people. So I spent my whole life trying to do what I'm doing now, which is just affect people's lives and make an impact in the world. I've had more people in the last 2 years than in my entire life of working on this tell me how much I've impacted them, changed their life, saved their life, transformed their life. And it probably happens on a weekly basis. It's insane.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that is a true fact that I can own and claim. And we have really cracked the code on how quick it is.
Yeah.
It's quicker and easier and more fun than you can imagine. And everyone thinks about healing and dance as like two of the hardest things. But once you just show up and experience
I haven't thought about that.
They do.
That's funny.
But then once you step through those doors and you see the level of, and you can ask, literally pick a person in the room.
Yeah.
Ask them how many classes they've been to and how impactful it's been. And every one of them will say the same thing. I've been here 3 weeks and my life has already changed. I've been here 2 years and I can't imagine life without this.
Yeah.
I've been here 1 class and already I know that this is my path. So it's just crazy.
Yeah. I wonder if it's more like healing is intimidating and so is dance. I think for me, it's more the intimidation of like stepping through the, like every time, even now, because I don't come consistently just because of my schedule. But when I do show up, I'm always like a little bit of that nervous trepidation of like, okay, we'll see how I do today. And there is a little bit of an intimidation of way getting out of your comfort zone. And healing is the same thing. You got to get out of your own way to be able to really fully dive into this. And that's how dance is. That's how healing is. And, again, it's just like, it's so fun though. Like with the masculine, and this is how we really bring back like the true masculine, the true feminine, because I think we've lost it. I don't think we really know. And you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, what the divine masculine, the divine feminine truly is. And I do think this is one of the ways it helps to really embody, like, what does this get to be? How do I get to hold my frame? How do I get to surrender? How do I get to flow and play and all these different dynamics that bring truth, which I love.
And the coolest thing that we've discovered is that the feminine leads as well.
So tell me more about that.
So we have,
because I have to let go. You know me. I'm always like, okay, what's he going to do next? I'm always I'm letting go of that. I'm trying to read the direction.
So it's a little unfortunate the lead is named the lead because you're both leading something. It's the yin and the yang and the balance. You can see my tattoo.
Yeah.
But each one leads something, and then there's a sub part of them that connects to the other. And so the lead leads the structure. The follow leads the flow of the dance. And as we've gone through this, like, traditional dance styles, it's like the lead is the lead and you just listen to whatever he wants you to do. But what you're actually doing is the follow is leading the flow, that magic like energy, like that practice we had the other day where you got in a flow and I joined you. That's what you're leading in the dance. And so but
you initiated that first, and that's what I loved.
Yeah. So I can essentially, as a lead, I can invite it out, but you're the one that's in charge, right, of that part. And so the flow is yours, like your direction, your energy, like everything you bring to the dance is you. And my job is to play with that and match that. And your job is to keep enough frame that you can connect with me, because that's what I'm leading. I'm leading this structure. So you keep structure in your body so that I can lead your body. And then I keep enough flow in me that I can follow yours. So I'm interested in like getting down and groovy with you as well.
Yeah.
But in no way, shape, or form am I like play and you're just doing it. It's like you are initiating it and then I'm playing with you.
It's a co-creation. And I think we talked about that last time I had my lessons. And I think that is so... I don't know that, again, we really know how to co-create, whether it's with God, because that's a whole other conversation, or with the divine, with the feminine, masculine, just in partnership. How do we co-create? How do I get to still have a voice and you get to still have a voice? And then we get to figure out how to dance together and make this beautiful symphony.
So we get to co-create on the micro, practice co-creating, and then it just pops to the next level.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, you're coming back. We're going to do a part 2 and 3 probably.
Just becomes a podcast where we just talk about this.
I know. We'll just keep talking about how this experience. And one of these, I do want to do an experience. I do want to create something together, like do what we talked about with over at my mom's place and do a little event, which will be fun.
We have openings in May.
I'll be filming in May, so maybe July. We'll figure it out.
We have a film coming up in May too.
What is your film?
Well, it's not ours, but it's just one we're going to be part of on Netflix, I think.
Oh, really? What's it called? Do you know what it's called?
It's with Wendy. You know Wendy down south?
Which Wendy?
Wendy's World of Woo, I think.
Oh, how cute. Which Wendy?
The Inn on Fire Wendy.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's way exciting.
Yeah. And there was another one. Anyway, we'll probably be in 2 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then I think I've had people reach out to me and are interested in, but I have such a staunch line of like, if I don't feel the same like integrity and like if I don't feel like you're in my frequency, no business, no question. Yeah. So I have a very staunch line. So I've had people reach out to me they want to do a documentary on us, and I just don't feel the alignment
yet.
Right. So I'm feeling like as I perfect, the right person will come up.
How did you not tell me about the TV thing when I'm telling you about my stuff?
Sorry.
It's like, I'm like, well, I'm glad this came up.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Should be fun.
Oh.
Yeah, she's just going through different experiences, and then she's having someone go through our experience, and then they're just talking about the effectiveness and all that stuff.
Oh,
so,
I love that. That's so cool.
And that kind of stuff, it just reflects back every time we've done something like that where people do it as an experiment. There's so much growth. Yeah. And it becomes the lifestyle and a passion that you just don't want to let go of. So,
well, the experiment or the curiosity, like I'm just going to go in this with curiosity. Like that is key to anything in life. I'm just gonna be curious and see how this plays out. Oh, okay. Well, I'll make sure and put all the things in the show notes, but you're awesome. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate you.